Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of 31 Days of Halloween Movies. I'm sorry that I'm a little far behind. I did so many movie reviews in the month of October, but I'm going to be finishing out the rest of the ones I have left. And the next one we're going to be doing is the 1935 film called The Bride of Frankenstein. Frankenstein is a 1935 American sci-fi horror film that is a sequel to the 1931 Frankenstein, with the same director of James Whale. Colin Clive and Boris Karloff return in their respective roles. What's so amazing about this film is I truly do think this is better than the original. I did give the first film a 10 out of 10, but I think this movie is just so far superior in every way. I didn't know how you can make a better sequel, and I think a lot of people before filming this didn't realize how good they can make it, but I think they realized what they could do with the story, and they could take it in so many great ways with really great character moments and really a lot of great emotional arcs with Frankenstein's monster in this film that always kept me a little bit more emotionally invested, seeing the better technical aspects and the use of the camera and the writing that they did in the first film. I truly do think this is one of the greatest sequels of all time, and I think this movie holds up a lot more than the original Frankenstein, and this is one I really want to watch all over again because of how influential and great and fantastic this horror film is. Let's start off with the performances in here. Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster is fantastic. He is definitely given more of a prominent screen time role in this film, and so there's a lot of really cool and awesome things that they do with his character. He's able to speak, he's able to move around better, he's learning, and what the filmmakers tried to do is give him the mind of a 10-year-old, but his his interest and his sexual interest or his imagination is more of a 15-year-old. And so they made that really interesting. They actually got writings of a 10-year-old and tried to figure out what their vocabulary was like and their speech pattern. They used that for the Frankenstein's monster. And I think just the level of detail in that in general is really awesome, especially for that time. Elsa Lanchester is amazing as well. Even in the 3 minutes that The Bride of Frankenstein is in this film, she's really, really great. She's iconic, especially with the look of it. And she doesn't really do much merely at all. I think just the look of her and how she acts is really iconic. Colin Clive is also fantastic. I think he was amazing in that first film, and he delivers so much more in this film. And I think we really got to see how well he could be as an actor, going from different ranges because of the emotional intensity and the way his character's feeling throughout. All pretty much know how the original story of Frankenstein goes. So watching it was just kind of like going through the motions, but obviously you have to appreciate for its time. But this one, I had no idea where they were taking this story. It was a lot more complicated. There was a couple subplots that were intertwined. There was a couple twists I didn't see coming. And it was more of an emotional investment with the story and the characters that I really found every idea really fascinating. And they do so much well with the themes in this film, and it really feels very much more prominent than ever it was before. The writing is fantastic in this movie. I think some of the humor is really good in this movie. As the humor is a little bit more prominent as it was in the other film, and it really works so well every single time. I think the dialogue is crisp. It feels like they really put a lot of work into making it really enjoyable and not just thrown together, just have the monsters, but they felt they had that artistic creation in them to make it all interesting as possible. And I feel as though that the interactions between all the humans are almost just as interesting as the interactions of the monster and the people that he meets. One of my favorite aspects of the movie is the scene between the hermit and Frankenstein's monster. It truly is one of my favorite scenes probably in a very long time. It's something about it just connected with me, and it goes the way that I was hoping it would go, and it absolutely delivered. It was so emotionally investing, and I just felt so locked into it for some reason, and I really felt very angry just how it went down, and you feel so bad because you know it can't last forever of how good this moment is. And I just thought it was just so truly genuine in the performances, and it really, really spoke to me personally of how we should be treating people that we don't see and we don't necessarily know about. And it doesn't matter what anyone looks like, about their heart and knowing who they are. They just did that so freaking well, especially for 1935. I think this moment is so much better than so many horror films than today. So much improvements in this film, whether it's the action, whether it's the directing, whether it's some of the performances, or even the way the storytelling is being presented on film. There's just so many improvements throughout, and it feels like James Whale, after doing The Invisible Man in 1933, going into this one, really wanted to make the story better, wanted to do so much more with it and have more of his original take and with the film, and I think it's amazing. I actually feel the directing is much better in this film. I feel like there's so many uses of the camera where it slides into the laboratory and scoping on a person's face. I feel like there's so many influential cuts that I've never really seen up to this point that we're seeing in movies now, especially horror films, that seemed like it was pretty influential. I don't know how influential it was, but it seemed like it was, and I just love that aspect of James Whale's just dedication to crafting this movie as amazing as he could. Influence is all over the walls. I mean, this was a huge success, and everyone truly loved this film. Everyone does say this is better than the original film, and it really spawned the idea of having a cinematic universe or having sequels and doing something better than the first one, because that wasn't really a thing back then. And so this was one of the first sequels ever made. The only negative I feel like I can put at is the marketing of The Bride of Frankenstein. They heavily show her in this film, and she only is in like the last 3 minutes. Doesn't really do anything, and I also thought that was just disappointing just because she's marketed so much in the trailers, in the posters, and everywhere you see when you think of the Universal classic monster films. She was important to more of the theme and the storytelling that Whale and the creative team were trying to get. To be honest, I love this movie so much. As I said about the first one, I'm glad this is only a black and white version. I will never try to find any colorized version. I think there's a charm and nostalgia for it that I truly love. I think this is definitely one of the best horror films of all time. I think just for the time that it did it, and it still holds up so incredibly well, so much more entertaining, just so much better than that masterpiece of a first one. This one's a clear masterpiece. I'm going to give this film a definite 10 out of 10. Let me know, guys, have you seen Bride of Frankenstein? Do you think it's better than the first one? Do you think it's worse than the first one? What is your favorite Frankenstein film or Universal classic monster film? I want to know all those things down below. And as always, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to me. You guys are liking the video. Subscribe to the channel. You guys are the best. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.